Going back to the horror story, we just did an inspection for a lady that just closed down a home not too long ago, and she invited us. It was already closed, and she asked us to come through. And unfortunately, we found two of the four walls were displaced and moved, bowing and cracking to a point where there needed to be excavation.
Hey, welcome to another edition to the Smart Start podcast brought to you by the Equitable Bank. I'm your host, Tom Statler. Today, it's all about finding a new home. Whether it's buying that dream home or downsizing as empty nesters, we want to walk you through the information that will take some of the uncertainty out of buying and selling your home. First, we're joined by Rachel and Dino Flores. Rachel is a multi-award-winning member of the RE/MAX Lakeside team. Dino and Rachel had partnered for many years, and over the past several years, Dino has pivoted into founding Good Land Inspections. Thanks for both of you to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start in the beginning. What is a consistent refrain from what we're hearing from potential home sellers? I'm afraid to sell my home without having my new home under contract. How do you address this type of anxiety?
Yeah, so we're kind of definitely seeing that a lot of times right now. And kind of what we start with is we're always saying the main three things is that we're finding out is number one is definitely, are you ever considering doing a bridge loan? So that's always number one, where you can kind of carry both of your payments. And then number two is what happens if we sell your house and then you ask for some post occupancy, for maybe 3 or 4 months, worst case. And then after that, if you still don't find your new house, maybe, do you have a family member or, somewhere you can definitely plan on going? And then the third option is always what we literally just did. But on Friday, we closed a deal that we said, okay, let's close your property right now, put it up for sale, close it, get your money in the bank, and then take your time finding a new property to buy. And they're going to stay with their folks for the next, however long it takes. I said, don't have like a time, restraint or anything, because you don't want to just buy your first house or anything. So yeah, so those are kind of the three main options. So bridge loan, post occupancy, and then number 3, just stay with a family member or some kind of rental situation until you find your dream house. Is the 3 common, most what we're seeing every day.
Sounds good. With inventory levels remaining underwhelming, another frequent occurrence to get offers to the front of the line is waiving of financing, appraisals, and inspections. Why might this not be a really good idea? I'll let you start with that, Dino.
Well, we're seeing that a lot, especially in this marketplace where in order to get, it's so competitive, in order to get your offer accepted, there's a lot of different things that you can do to get that to make your offer a little more attractive to the home seller. One of those items is waiving your appraisal contingency. We try to shy away from that because it's not really the best approach, especially if you're a first-time home buyer. You got limited resources. But if you're a little more of a seasoned buyer, maybe you do got some funds in the bank that you might be able to cover whatever is short on the appraisal. Maybe that's not a bad idea. So what we got to do is we got to sit down. We got to go with the client. We got to go over what are your finances look like? What's the best approach for you and your family? When you're looking to purchase this house, but looking to waive those type of contingencies is something that we really don't want to do. But unfortunately, in this market, it's so tight. Sometimes it's if you don't do some of these things, you might not get your offer considered. When it's sitting in front of a homeowner, because they're looking at 5 to 10 offers in some cases, maybe even more. And we're dealing with cash buyers. We're dealing with all different types of buyers that are submitting offers. And that's where we really got to sit down with our client and find out what's best for them. Because there's some clients out there that are able to do that. They're able to waive their financing or their appraisal contingency, or they can cover a portion of that. So if that's the case, we like to sit down with them and talk about those things. But in this marketplace, I think we're going to continue seeing a little bit of that for the remainder of this year, possibly into next year. Unless something really major happens in the marketplace. But this is what we're seeing right now. So not something that we recommend doing, but it's an option. It's really an option for a buyer client to consider if they really love that home and if it really fits their needs.
And they have the cash.
And they have the cash.
So if it comes in short, because they're going to have to make the offset if for some reason that happens.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and waiving that inspection, wow, that's like definitely, it's very, very been common lately, but waiving that home inspection, we always suggest if you're going to waive the home inspection, then at least purchase a home warranty that might cover, stuff for the first year with just a small $100 deductible on most of the plans. So that's another thing we've been recommending.
And then kind of pivoting to the home inspection side of it, us on the home inspection company side of it, we've been doing a lot more home inspections for people that have already closed. So that's a new phenomenon that we're seeing come through. I think at one point I counted 4 out of 10 inspections that we were doing were for clients that have already closed. Little bit of a different type of situation because it all depends on what we find and what they bought, because that's what they're telling us. Tell us what we bought. So it's a different situation, but it's happening.
Yeah, and then they want to run back to the seller. Why didn't you disclose? Why didn't you disclose? So, and it's like,
And what is their recourse?
Well, the one thing that we always say is, listen, when you're looking to buy a house, there's a real estate condition report that you should really look at. If you're under buyer agency, make sure that your agent explains these things to you. What does it mean waiving a home inspection? And what am I walking into if I do that? It's all about having proper information, and once, our job is to give them the information so that they can make a well-informed decision about what's best for them.
Sure. And then another, is there also now looking at from the seller's perspective, if I'm ready to sell a home, what should I do to be prepared? I've heard possibly of people actually being proactive and doing a inspection in advance of them putting their house on the market. Is that an occurrence? Something that's you're seeing?
Oh yeah, we're seeing a lot of we're getting a lot of clients that are reaching out and saying, hey, we're looking to list, in the next month or two. We really want to see what we have, and maybe take care of some of those things. So we've been doing a lot more of the pre-listing inspections. The nice thing is that we at Good Land Inspections will come back once, we'll give them a list of things that came up on the inspection. And then once they have those things cured or corrected, we'll come back and we'll kind of do an update to that inspection. So it's a benefit in that sense.
Okay. And then what should a seller do to prepare themselves for a sale? Do you typically go to the house and walk through it with them?
Yep. Usually, right when they say, hey, we're ready to put our house up for sale, I say, okay, well, let's just meet, 3-4 weeks ahead of time so I can kind of do a pre-listing walk through, go room by room. If I see like a crazy paint color somewhere, like dark brown, blacks, in some kids' rooms, let's lighten those rooms up so that, if it's for the new buyer's 2-year-old, they want it to be nice and cheery, not, look dark brown or dark grays for the teenager that's currently living there. So we kind of like go through room by room and, and even like just downspouts, just from being married to the home inspector, just going through and saying, hey, all these downspouts need to be 6 feet at least from your foundation. So I kind of walk them through and then, like, hey, this might be called during the home inspection, put some downspouts on there, just little things, or hey, change out your furnace filter. The home inspector's going to open that up, and if he sees that it's a nice new, filter, he's going to say, hey, they take good care of it. But if it's old, full of dog hair, they're going to say, hey, these people never maintain things. Their furnace, look right here. So just little things that we definitely walk through the house and go room by room to make sure that, the kitchens are nice and clean. I'll literally check for cobwebs, just do a really, really deep look around, and and then a lot of times the sellers have notepads and they're walking through room by room. Okay, I need to move this chair over here, she said, or I need to move this. And I do have a lot of staging background too, so that helps with a lot of that different like living room planning and just making sure that the spaces look nice and open.
So get rid of all the kids' toys that are sitting in the middle of the room.
Yep, hide the gates and picture day, we don't want to see baby gates and stuff like that laying around, or toys. We want to look really neutral and open, kind of, like a model home, I always tell them. Hide the personal stuff.
Gotcha. So how about curb appeal? Is that something that plays a role into it too? If it's the middle of winter, obviously there's going to be some points of difference, but are there things that you want to look for in terms of once that potential buyer comes and pulls into the house?
Yep. We always focus on curb appeal. Even before any buyers are going to schedule any showings, they're going to definitely most likely drive past the home. So what we always suggest is like, okay, it's springtime. What would you want to see? We definitely want to see nice manicured grass. If you cut the grass on a nice angle, put some nice fresh, bright, yellow tulips on the front. It's all about curb appeal. So anything you can do to make that front entrance, you don't want to have a missing light bulb or anything like that. Some bright tulips for the front. And when fall comes, I always say, let's do some, bright yellow mums and stuff like that, because people are going to be driving past, and, if they see the garbage cans in front of the the garage door, that's a big turnoff. So I always say, hide those garbage cans, get those, back inside the garage. We don't want, people, drive-bys don't want to see garbage cans and stuff. They want to see bright colored flowers and manicured lawn. So I always say, cut that grass every 3-4 days when we're up alive right away.
Oh boy, I'd have to hire somebody to keep a straight line. So when we're talking about what are some of the things, okay, we've talked about kind of the waiving inspections and things of that nature. Any horror stories you can share with us that might come to mind in terms of why did you do that?
One thing, just kind of talking about that is I with my real estate background, showing houses. I've been doing this since 1998.
You're a child.
Man. Yeah. So one thing that I've learned from going from, to hundreds and maybe even thousands of home inspections throughout my career, and asking questions of home inspectors, how do I better show a house? And I think the one thing that I tell agents is take a flashlight with you. That's the best tool that you can have. And, in a market like we're in today where, you might be asking that client to waive a home inspection if they want that house because there's so much competition on it. Do your due diligence, read the condition report. If there's anything obvious to you, if you see water in the basement, I know you're not going to go through a house like a home inspector would, but you can look for things that are somewhat obvious and maybe point those out and really try to control those emotions, so that, a buyer doesn't have those surprises. But, going back to the horror story, we just did an inspection for a lady that just closed down a home not too long ago. And she invited us. It was already closed. And she asked us to come through. And unfortunately, we found 2 of the 4 walls were displaced and moved, bowing and cracking to a point where there needed to be excavation. We helped her contact, companies that could give her more information about foundations. There was asbestos in the home, so there were 3 or 4 major items that came up. And unfortunately, she already closed on a home, so that was an unfortunate thing. I'm not saying that the realtor should have known those things, but, if you see cracks in the foundation, those are the biggest things that as a home inspector, I would advise a realtor, look for those things.
On both sides, the seller and the buyer.
On both sides, absolutely. And the sooner those things are found out, we can work through those things. As realtors, we've gone through, all kinds of foundations inspections and we navigate the process on how to get those things resolved and fixed and everybody's happier for that. So do your due diligence. But there's some definite horror stories out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you have, you've got several offers presented to your buyer. what's the process in going through each of those, and what's going to be the things that are going to stand out, and what are the things that are going to cause you pause, and when you're communicating that with your buyer?
With my buyer.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, with your
seller,
seller.
seller,
I'm
seller.
sorry.
Okay, yeah, because I was like got multiple
Yeah,
offers with
yeah,
the seller.
sorry,
Okay,
yeah.
so with the seller, so if I have multiple offers on one of my seller's deals, so what we kind of do is right away we kind of make graphs on each offer. So some of the highlighted points is always going to be earnest money. Okay, so this one, for instance, I just had this like 2 days ago. So one had earnest money of 10,000, one had earnest money of 2,000. So right away that 10,000 really stood out. And then another big thing is always going to be the appraisal gap. Is there any appraisal gap in there? Are they totally waiving the appraisal? Are they trying to do some kind of gap that they'll, pay a difference of, 5 or 10,000? For instance, this one had an appraisal gap of 12,000. And then another biggie that we always kind of do the graph for is going to be the home inspection. Are they waiving the home inspection? Are they going to cover a part of the home inspection that they won't ask for any defects, for the first $2,000? We see that a lot. We won't ask for any repairs if the repair is under $2,000. So that's like another really, really highlighted important category. And then also, of course, price.
And financing.
And
also,
financing too. Yeah, financing too. We take a look at and make sure that they, how much are they going to put down? Is it, like an FHA loan where they might be a little weaker of a buyer or considered a little weaker of a buyer with credit score and less down payment money. So yeah, so financing is a big one, just to really see the down payment.
And we take the steps to call the loan officer or the lender and say, hey, we're sitting here with your customer. We just, we know that there's certain things that they can't tell us, but we just want to make that connection. And that really, lowers that temperature, when we're talking to the seller where, they're concerned about certain things. And say, hey, we spoke to the loan officer. They gave us the thumbs up, so, have your buyer prepared, a proper pre-approval, whatever it is, and put the loan officer on notice that he may be getting a call or she may be getting a call from a realtor just to say, hey, we're sitting with your customer.
Sure.
We just want to get the thumbs up, and that helps us. when we're sitting down with the seller.
Yeah, big time. When the loan officer says, "Oh man, these people are golden," and I'm like, "Oh, okay, this is good," or else, they start to talk a little too much, and you're like, "Okay, well, it doesn't sound like they're too so you kind of pick their brain a little bit.
A little bit, it's limited to what they can say.
They can't say
know
too
that,
much,
but
golden is nice to hear.
But that pre-approval, when you see that pre-approval, are there red flags that you see on that sometimes, or what other than the fact that it says the Equitable Bank? Are there other things are there red flags sometimes that you might see when you see that pre-approval?
Yeah, ever so often, like on one of mine, I just caught that they had put an offer in on a single family, and then it said pre-approved for a two-family. So I called up the lender, and I was like, why does it say the pre-approval is a two-family? Oh, well, they do need that, additional income to qualify. And I'm like, well, what the heck, can they qualify? And then and then it turned out that buyer didn't qualify. So I was like, okay, well, cross off this offer. Let's look at the other ones. So yeah, so it's really, really, good to really read those offers, the pre-approvals very, very carefully, because ever so often you'll catch an error that can bite you 2-3 weeks down the line. And now those other buyers that put the offers in now walked and they're gone.
What, when you have an inspection, the necessity to have that home inspection, what are some of the things that, like, as a realtor, both of you obviously being realtors, what are some of the things that you could say, that's not the end of the world when you're talking to your buyer, and what are the things that what are some of the things that definitively need to be taken care of before you would say, let's go ahead and waive that inspection?
Yeah, a great question. And I think, the way that our approach is to our clients when we're doing a home inspection is we're just, not pointing out red flags. Oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. We try to do some educating and saying, you know what, most houses in Wisconsin, have poor grading that causes water to come into the basement. Gutters are clogged. Downspouts need extensions. I mean, in most cases, that's what we're seeing. 8 out of 10 homes. So we could say, major defect, or we can, educate the buyer and say, listen, here's where you buy the dirt. This is the type of dirt you get. One weekend you invite your friends over, feed them, maybe, buy a 12-pack or something, and get the work done, and then, that really helps that buyer understand that, look, there's home maintenance that we need to do, but then there's defects that do need to be talked about. Environmental issues, foundation issues, roof issues. So all those things we do look at, but we try to put it in perspective because it's so difficult for these buyers to find a home. And we could just be inspectors that, hey, we're just doing our job, everything's a red flag, but we want to try to help that process. I think it's more right now, everybody should be working as a team to try and get these deals to a closing. You got your realtors, your loan officers, your inspectors, and if we provide the right information to the client, maybe that's the home that they're going to close on, so a lot of realtors that I work with, they appreciate that because, the business that we're in, there's inspectors that, do their own thing a certain way, but that's how we take that approach.
Terrific. Rachel and Dino Flores, thanks for joining us on the Smart Start podcast brought to you by the Equitable Bank.
Thank you.
One of my favorite cliches over the past several years is in these uncertain times. Truth is, there's no certainty, and surrounding yourself with people who communicate and provide you with the best information will temper some of that uncertainty. Our guests today certainly check those boxes. Remember, there are no problems, only solutions. I'm Tom Sattler, and thanks for joining us on the Smart Start podcast brought to you by the Equitable Bank. Till next time.